Hayley Mills finally speaks the truth about Brian Keith at the age of 79. Hayley Mills was born on April 18, 1946, in London, England. Her full name is Hayley Catherine Rose Vivian Mills. Hayley Mills was meant to be an artist. She came from a famous family of actors. Sir John Mills, her father, was one of Britain's most famous performers. Her mother, Mary Hayley Bell, was a novelist, playwright, and actress. Hayley grew up surrounded by creative people, so she learned how to tell stories, act, and express her feelings as easily as breathing. Not only was she privileged and exposed to art as a child, but she also learned discipline and how to observe. She learned early on that acting was not just about being glamorous. It was also about being honest, patient, and committed. She grew up behind the scenes of theater performances and movie sets. This grounding would show in her performances even when she was a youngster, when she acted like an adult. Hayley Mills started acting in movies in the late 1950s, but her big break came in Disney's Tiger Bay 1959, which made her a star as a young actress. The Academy Award she won for her performance was a huge accolade that put her right at the top of the list of the best young actors of her generation. Hayley had a unique capacity to show depth, empathy, and quiet intelligence, which made her instantly relevant to audiences at a period when many young actors had trouble balancing innocence with authenticity. Hayley Mills became an international star in the 1960s, especially because of her work with Walt Disney Studios. Movies like Pollyanna 1960, The Parent Trap 1961, That Darn Cat 1965, and In Search of the Castaways 1962 made her a cultural figure. In Pollyanna, her image of the perennially cheerful young girl struck a chord with those living in a world that was changing quickly. Her performance wasn't just happy, it was honest, heartfelt, and very human. Disney fans still love this movie, and many people say that Hayley's performance is what makes it so special. Her most famous role may have been in The Parent Trap, where she played two identical twins with amazing technical proficiency and emotional clarity. Most child performers would have a hard time telling one role from another at that age, but Hayley gave each twin a unique personality, mannerism, and emotional rhythm. The movie became a classic for families and still makes new generations happy, proving how talented she was. Hayley Mills was never just a child star, though. As she became older, she bravely chose to leave behind the Disney image and take on more difficult and nuanced tasks. This change wasn't easy, and many former child stars have had to deal with it, but Hayley did it with honesty and strength. She showed her range and depth as an actress by appearing in movies and plays in the late 1960s and 1970 seconds that dealt with darker, more complex issues. Her theatrical career grew simultaneously with her involvement in movies. Hayley Mills had a strong connection to theater because her performances could grow and change every night. She was in a lot of West End shows and then traveled the world, where people praised her for her emotional intelligence and strong presence. Theater gave her the chance to really explore character development, and she often said it was the place where she felt most creatively fulfilled. Hayley Mills is a successful novelist in addition to being a good actress. Her memoir, Forever Young, is a frank and meaningful look back at celebrity, childhood, personal struggles, and survival. In it, she talks honestly about the stress of getting famous too soon, the difficulties of being an adult, and how important it is to embrace herself. Her work shows that she is humble and insightful, and that she has lived a complete life, learned a lot, and come out stronger. Hayley Mills kept showing that her talent wasn't limited to one time period. She easily reinvented herself and took on roles that showed off her depth, warmth, and long-lasting screen presence. She came back to making family-friendly movies in 2010 with Mandy and the Cherokee Treasure, a movie based on the popular Mandy books by Lois Gladys Leopard. Her participation gave the production a traditional feel and made it seem more real, linking a new generation of spectators to an actress whose career had once defined wholesome, sincere movies. The next year, Mills had a radically different job in Foster 2011 in a touching, emotionally powerful drama about love, grief, and unexpected connections, with Toni Collette as the other lead. The movie enabled Mills show a calmer, more thoughtful side of her work, reminding viewers that her ability to portray deep emotion with subtlety had only gotten better over time. Critics and fans alike said that she fit in with modern storytelling very well. The modern environment never took away from it, but it also never made it less important. Lessening her TV appearances in the 2000s only added to her reputation as a reliable and adaptable actor. In 2014, Mills thrilled fans by guest starring in popular British shows including Midsummer Murders and Moving On. She fit right in with smartly crafted episodic roles that showed how easily she could play complex characters and add emotional nuance. These appearances weren't just cameos based on nostalgia. They were confident, fully formed performances that showed how important she still is on current TV. She joins the cast of Pitching in 2019. It's a friendly, character-driven show set in a holiday park in Wales. The part once again showed Mills's ability to make ensemble casts feel real and human, adding depth to the production with her expertise and gentle authority. 2 years later, she scored another milestone when she played Michael Sheen's mother in the holiday movie Last Train to Christmas 2021. The performance was full of emotion and family honesty, giving listeners a moving picture that went beyond the holiday scene. Mills didn't show any signs of slowing down in 2022. She got a recurring part on the TV drama Compulsion. The series let her work with darker, more psychologically complex material, showing that she wasn't hesitant to push herself into difficult areas even after years of being in front of the camera. She kept up her pace into 2023 when she played Lady Emma Hume in the 5th season of ITV's hit mystery thriller Unforgotten. She did so with grace and depth. The job put her in the middle of a fascinating story, and people praised her performance for its emotional control and quiet strength. Later that year, Mills wowed fans across the world with her role in The Wheel of Time, where she entered the vast fantasy universe and once again showed how well she can adapt to any genre. Hayley Mills's latter work shows that she has always been a great storyteller and has always been interested in telling stories. She has done everything from family adventures and intimate dramas to crime thrillers and grand fantasy. Hayley Mills was only 20 years old and already a famous star when she filmed The Family Way in 1966. The movie was full of creative energy and emotional intensity, and it changed her life in ways she never expected. While filming, she met Roy Bolting, a well-known and talented filmmaker who was 53 at the time. Their connection, which crossed a big age gap, gradually grew into a strong personal tie. What started as a working partnership slowly turned into a romance that the press found interesting and that went against what was expected at the time. Mills and Bolting got married in 1971 after being together for a few years. They started a life together that included art, intelligence, and peaceful time at home. The pair spent time at a sophisticated flat in Chelsea, London, which is at the center of Britain's cultural and artistic scene, and at the romantic old Cobstone Windmill in Ibstone, Buckinghamshire. The windmill seemed to reflect their unusual love story. Their marriage produced a son, Crispian Mills, whose creative path would eventually take some surprising turns. Crispian became the lead singer and guitarist for the important rock band Kula Shaker. He made his own mark on music history and kept the family's musical lineage alive. Mills and Bolting's marriage ended in 1977, which was a big change in her personal life. Not long after that, Mills started a new, very important friendship with actor Lee Lawson. Her second son, Jason Lawson, was born in July 1976 as a result of this marriage. Mills became a mother again and had to balance the obligations of her job with the joys and hardships of raising two boys. Even though her relationship with Lawson ended in the early 1980s, it was a time of emotional growth and self-discovery for the actress. The breakup's effects turned out to be a turning point. In the 1980s, Mills started a deep trip inside himself, looking into spirituality, and became genuinely interested in many Eastern religions. This quest was not a passing interest, but a serious and intellectual exploration of notions concerning faith, purpose, and the nature of existence. Her writing and editing job were ways for her to communicate her spiritual explorations. In 1984, she wrote the introduction to the first Krishna book of vegetarian cooking, which was based on compassion and living mindfully, even though she wasn't a member of the Hare Krishna movement. In 1988, she co-edited My God, Letters from the Famous on God and the Life Hereafter with Marcus Milan. This was a powerful collection of thoughts on spirituality from well-known people that showed how deeply she thought about the big problems in life. In 1997, love came back into Mills's life in a way that was both startling and lasting. While they were both in starring parts in The King and I, she met actor and writer Fergus Bamji. Their chemistry on stage turned into a strong bond off stage that lasted. Even though they were 20 years apart in age, their connection was strong and supportive. Bamji is still Mills's partner in 2023, standing by her side as a friend and creative equal. A monument to a life that was not just famous and talented, but also full of constant change, emotional honesty, and a willingness to love in all its manifestations. Hayley Mills is 79 years old, and she speaks with a clarity and emotional honesty that only time can give. Decades after she was one of Disney's most famous child stars, she no longer feels the need to preserve her fantasies or make bad memories less painful. She is grateful for her work now, but she is also ready to face the difficult truths that influenced her early existence in Hollywood. One of those realities is about Brian Keith, her co-star in The Parent Trap and other Disney movies. People used to think of him as a kind father figure both on and off screen. Brian was the dad of the United States to the globe. Mills says he had a booming voice, a bear-like presence, and an ease that made people feel protected. But what the audience witnessed was only part of the story. Mills was only a teenager when she first worked with Keith in 1961. She was dealing with success that had come too rapidly. Keith was supposed to be a steadying force and a kind of protector for Keith, and in many ways he was. Mills has said many times that he could be kind, helpful, and very professional on set. She remembers that he took care of me in practical ways. He made sure I was treated fairly and that I didn't have to do more than I could do as a child. But there was a darker complexity underneath that protecting facade that Mills didn't fully understand until years later. Brian was in a lot of discomfort. She says that he didn't talk about it openly, and back then, guys just didn't, especially not men who were supposed to be tough. Mills says that Keith is a man who is always fighting with himself, has mood swings, is very sad, and has learned to control his emotions because of his generation. She knew something was wrong when she was a young actor, but she didn't know how to say it. She says that you feel these sensations as a child. You can tell when the mood changes and when someone is in pain, even if no one tells you. In hindsight, she thinks that Keith's problems were a reflection of the atmosphere in Hollywood at the time, when people disguised their weaknesses and dulled their suffering instead of dealing with it. Mills says that there was no place for being kind to yourself. You buried your pain and kept working. Keith said suicide in 1997 put a lengthy shadow on those memories. It made Mills very upset, but it also helped him understand. She replies softly, "My heart broke when I heard how his life ended, not because I was startled, but because it finally made sense." She stresses that her thoughts are not accusations or attempts to make him less talented or compassionate. Instead, they are untidy, human, and unresolved truths. Mills says that he doesn't want to change Brian into a bad guy or a good guy. He wasn't either. He was a really talented man who didn't get the aid he needed. Mills, who is now 79, feels responsible for being honest, especially with people who grew up idolizing Hollywood stars without knowing how much it costs to live in that society. She claims we pretended a lot back then, pretending that everything was okay, that we were pleased, and that the system wasn't hurting people. She also feels sorry for herself, Keith, and an industry that often lets its own down. "I made it through, but a lot of people didn't." She swears Brian didn't, and that's the sad thing about stating the truth. Now, Mills wants to honor the actual truth of her experiences instead of the polished stories that surround them. She comes to the conclusion that the truth isn't mean. Silence is harsh, and I don't want to remain quiet anymore. Hayley Mills isn't breaking up a legacy at 79. She's making it more human. She also reminds us that beneath Hollywood's greatest grins, there was often unspeakable pain that waited decades to be named.